Welcome to Salmon Summer. This is a storytelling series about wild rivers, migrating salmon, and how those two things are deeply connected, not just to each other, but to us. I'm Hattie, a river guide and conservation student, and I've spent a lot of time on rivers. But this summer, I'll be following salmon and the rivers they depend on to tell the story of what it means to protect something wild. I'll be camping, kayaking, maybe swimming in some freezing water, but mostly I'm here to ask questions. What does it mean for a river to run free? What happens when we dam it, and what happens when we finally take those dams down? On this episode, we're starting where the river ends. This is the mouth of the Klamath River, where it meets the Pacific Ocean, where salmon return after thousands of miles at sea, and where their story begins again. When we got down to the beach, we saw tons of sea lions. They're probably hunting salmon, or maybe just hanging out. Either way, they're part of the story too. Because when we talk about salmon, we're talking about a species that feeds everything. Salmon are what biologists call a keystone species. Remove them, and everything else starts to collapse. When salmon return to spawn, they bring nutrients from the ocean all the way inland. After spawning, most of them die, and their bodies feed dozens of other species: birds, trees, bears, insects, even the next generation of salmon. In that way, salmon connect ecosystems. They don't just rely on healthy rivers, they help build them. Not far from the ocean, we walked through the redwoods, ancient trees that tower over the Klamath Basin. When salmon swim upstream and die after spawning, their bodies feed the forest. Scientists have found ocean nutrients, like nitrogen, inside the rings of these trees. So, even if you're standing miles from the river in a grove of giant trees, you're still standing in salmon country.
Alright, we're not sure what this is, but no. It's good. That was a little bitter.
From the redwoods, we drove up towards Oregon, through the mountains, and back down to California, to the town of Happy Camp. This is where we got on the river. This is a stretch of the lower Klamath, a mellow section with some fun Class 2 and 3 rapids. This is the kind of water that's fun and splashy, but also lets you look around. Right now, this stretch is flowing free, but the Klamath hasn't always been this way. For over 100 years, salmon haven't made it this far. The dam stopped them cold. But last year, something historic happened. The Klamath River Dam Removal Project, which began in 2023 and is the largest of its kind in U.S. history, reached a major milestone with the completion of all 4 dam removals. The final dam removal was completed in August 2024, with the river now flowing freely from Keno to the Pacific Ocean. The next day, we drove upstream, passing the beautiful Mount Shasta to the upper Klamath. The vibe up here is completely different. Dry canyon country. Bigger rapids, this section is all adrenaline and long wave trains that just don't let up. Aside from the rapids, there was also tons of wildlife. We saw otters, American white pelicans, hawks, ducks, a great blue heron, and double-crested cormorant.
Alright, put into the upper Klamath. Hope it's worth the shuttle. So far, I think I've seen 8 different kinds of birds and an otter and a turtle. Lots of wildlife. Super cool river.
We camped at a spot that used to be lakefront. Not long ago, this section was a reservoir, a flooded valley behind one of the Klamath's now-removed dams. But now, it's a river again. A moving, sediment-filled, healing river. Still a little raw, still figuring itself out, but honestly, so are we. Dam removal isn't a reset button, it's the start of a long repair. It'll take time for the river to find its shape again, for sediment to settle, banks to stabilize, for salmon to return in real numbers. But that's what salmon do. They return, they adapt, they try again. This was just the beginning. One river, 1 week, one story. But there are a lot more out there. More rivers, more salmon, more people fighting to keep these places wild. And I'm gonna follow that story, one river at a time. Thanks for being here for the first episode of Salmon Summer. Please follow along on social media, consider donating to the project, and I hope to see you back here for the next episode where we'll be exploring the Deschutes River. Cheers!